Is it moral to be selfish? What's in the news with stories on hemp lawsuits, the FBI and FDA doing stupid stuff, cryptocurrency updates, lab-grown meat, and much more. And a big PorcFest update on who is going to be the keynote speaker. Make sure to hang out until the end of the show to get your chance to win some free swag.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. Coming to you from the state that was the home of the world's largest meatball at 222.8 pounds in Concord, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Revolution needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at the Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 57, The Virtue of Selfishness, and it's Tuesday, March 14th, 2017, when there have already been more than 241 people killed by police this year. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. The Virtue of Selfishness is the title of one of my favorite nonfiction books by Ayn Rand. The title is provocative, purposely so. Rand chose to use the word selfish for a very specific reason. I'll let her explain it to us. Quote, in popular usage, the word selfishness is a synonym of evil. The image it conjures is of a murderous brute who tramples over piles of corpses to achieve his own ends, and pursues nothing but the gratification of the mindless whims of any immediate moment. Yet the exact meaning and dictionary definition of the word selfishness is concern with one's own self-interest. This concept does not include a moral evaluation. It does not tell us whether concern with one's own interests is good or evil, nor does it tell us what constitutes man's actual interests. It is the task of ethics to answer such questions. In this book, The Virtue of Selfishness is her attempt to answer the ethics of selfishness. She does an amazing job of it in this collection of essays. I was a fan of Rand's fiction books, Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, but it wasn't until I read this book that I considered myself an objectivist, or someone who follows the philosophy of objectivism. In the introduction to this important book, Rand gives us a fairly clear understanding of her definition of selfishness. Quote, since selfishness is concern with one's own interests, the objectivist ethic uses that concept in its exact and purest sense. It is not a concept that one can surrender to man's enemies, nor to the unthinking misconceptions, distortions, prejudices, and fears of the ignorant and the irrational. The attack on selfishness is an attack on man's self-esteem. To surrender one is to surrender the other. Now, it's commonly believed that morality demands that we choose between sacrificing other people to ourselves, which is deemed selfish and immoral, and sacrificing our own values to satisfy the needs of others, which is deemed unselfish and therefore moral. Rand rejects both of these options as forms of selflessness and offers a new concept of egoism, an ethic of rational selfishness that rejects sacrifice in all of its forms. This can best be summed up in the famous quote of John Galt in Atlas Shrugged. Quote, I swear by my life and my love of it that I will never live for the sake of another man, nor ask another man to live for mine. Selfishness, however, does not mean just doing whatever you please. Moral principles are not a matter of personal opinion. They're based on the facts of reality and man's nature as a rational being who must think and act successfully in order to live and be happy. Morality's task is to identify the kinds of actions that do actually benefit you. These virtues, productivity, independence, integrity, honesty, justice, pride, they're all applications of the basic virtue, rationality. Rand's moral ideal is a life of reason, purpose, and self-esteem. Most people take for granted that actions intended to benefit others are good, and that actions intended to benefit yourself are bad. One of the book's themes is that this beneficiary criterion of morality makes it impossible to even conceive of self-interest as moral. In order to make room for her new concept of egoism, Rand identifies the opposite of selfishness as altruism, literally otherism, and argues that making service to others the hallmark of moral action obscures the real issues in ethics. What are values? Why do we need them? How do we decide who should be the beneficiary of our actions? Only when you answer these questions, Rand argues, are you in a position to evaluate egoism and altruism as good or evil. I know what my values are, I know why I need them, and I've decided who should be the beneficiary of my actions. Have you? It's really important that you do so you know what your value is and what you're working for. One theme of this book is that morality is a matter of principle, not divine revelation or subjective desire. A properly defined principle, one that identifies an actual truth about human action, should be acted upon consistently, never compromised. Rand writes, quote, "There can be no compromise on the basic principles or on fundamental issues. What would you regard as a compromise between life and death, or between truth and falsehood?" This reminds me of a quote from Thomas Paine. Quote, "'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, but he whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves his conduct will pursue his principles unto death." I talk a lot about principles on this show, and I learned a lot of what I know about consistently holding my principles from Rand and her writings. Characters such as Howard Rourke in The Fountainhead stand by their principles to the point of stubborn obstinance, but this is a good trait, in my opinion. Moral principles are indispensable guides to action in real-life situations if one's goal is to attain individual happiness. Unfortunately, principles have gotten a bad rap because conventional ideals like self-sacrifice cannot be consistently practiced without inviting disaster. As a result, compromise becomes essential to survival. Consistency seems dangerous, and philosophers like Ayn Rand and even Ron Paul are marginalized as dangerous fanatics. Egoists are generally assumed to prey on others. In Rand's view, however, individuals derive indispensable benefit from exchanging values with other people. Rand writes, quote, "A traitor is a man who earns what he gets and does not give or take the undeserved. He does not treat men as masters or slaves, but as independent equals. He deals with men by means of a free, voluntary, unforced, uncoerced exchange, an exchange which benefits both parties by their own independent judgment." In this broad sense, Rand's traitor principle encompasses not only economic transactions, but all voluntary human relationships. This is a big part of the current voluntarist ethic. While many voluntarists, usually those who have never read Rand's works, reject her, I believe that if more of them would spend more time reading and studying her philosophy, many would understand that she held the same principles that they do, unflinchingly so in many ways. Although the egoistic individual is perfectly at home in society, he recognizes that other people hold the power to destroy the value of social life by initiating physical force against him, in the form of criminal acts, or more dangerously, improper government coercion. One of this book's themes is that morality must identify principles to identify and guard against this threat. In her essay, Man's Rights, Rand presents her case for individual rights, moral principles that spell out one's proper sphere of freedom, and grounds the rights of life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness that are the foundation of libertarianism. Far from being self-evident, these principles need a new moral defense. However, Ayn Rand went a little bit off the deep end in the next section, in my opinion. In The Nature of Government, Rand argues that a constitutional republic on the American model, with certain crucial flaws corrected, is necessary to protect individual rights, and that this is the only valid purpose of government. While I do understand her here, because I once believed this way, I now believe that Murray Rothbard's adoption and evolution of Rand's non-initiation of force principle that includes all form of government is the logical and moral application of objectivism and selfishness. Now, my point in this topic is to show that selfishness is important and necessary to understanding true libertarianism and voluntarism. True selfishness, based on the actual definition of the word, and not people's false understanding of the word, is imperative for morality. Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
Fuck. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is liberty. Each week we strive to bring you the best guests in talk radio. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad delivers weekly interviews of noteworthy politicians, experts, and activists. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is bringing the party to the Libertarian Party and launching ideas in your direction. Check us out at johnnyrocketlaunchpad.com. You can hear me, Kurt Nelson, and the beautiful Heather Nixon talk about the ideas of liberty, rock and roll.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In hiding behind stacks of paper news, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has stopped accepting Freedom of Information Act requests by email. The agency wants requesters to use fax, standard mail, or the agency's online portal. Adam Marshall, an attorney with the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, said that the goals seem to be, quote, creating a lot of extra burden. Everyone is used to emails. It creates a permanent record. It has a timestamp on it. Everyone knows how to use it. The FBI, on the other hand, says the move will help the agency expedite its backlog, which was estimated at 2,614 requests in 2015 alone. Agency spokesperson Jillian Stickles told the Daily Caller that using an online portal will automate the process of requests and, quote, increase efficiency. But does the FBI really want to make the process more efficient? And its decision to continue accepting faxes and standard mail seems to only create headaches for requesters who might run out of toner or have their transmission signal interrupted when someone picks up the line. Marshall said, quote, most mail that goes to a federal agency has to go through a screening process. Sometimes they irradiate it to make sure that there isn't anthrax or other things in it. So it can take a long time for your mail to get from you to the FOIA officer who's going to open it and read it. Yet the law says that the agency is required to provide a response to a FOIA request within 20 days. The online portal system imposes a 3,000 character restriction. Also, the FBI says that not all types of requests can be fulfilled through the portal. Though which types will be, the agency won't say. And it's not just the FBI. 11 other agencies, including the Environmental Protection Agency, Customs and Border Patrol, Department of the Navy, and others have recently followed the FBI with these rules. It's clear the goal of this new rule is to make it as difficult as possible to see how your stolen money is being used by these agencies. In It's About Time news, the Hemp Industries Association has filed a motion against the DEA, challenging the agency's handling of hemp foods as Schedule I drugs. The HIA is hoping a court will find the DEA in contempt of court for failing to comply with a 13-year-old court injunction, prohibiting the agency from regulating hemp food products as Schedule I controlled substances. A 2004 ruling made by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals determined that the DEA has violated the Controlled Substances Act by designating hemp stalk, fiber, sterilized seed, and oil as marijuana. Hemp contains trace amounts of naturally occurring THC, the main psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. This versatile crop can be used in a ton of ways, from making rope and fabrics to food and fuel. In December 2016, the DEA and North Dakota Department of Agriculture halted the export of healthy oilseeds hemp products grown under the state's hemp pilot program, and the Congress Agricultural Act of 2014, the Farm Bill, claiming it was prohibited, quote, because industrial hemp is a Schedule I controlled substance under the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Colleen Cahey, executive director of the HIA, said, quote, we will not stand idly by while the DEA flouts the will of Congress, violates the Ninth Circuit order, and harasses honest hemp producers trying to make a living with this in-demand crop. The motion comes nearly 2 months after the DEA added a new code to its Federal Register that reclassifies CBD oil and other marijuana extracts like hemp oil as Schedule I drugs. This is a no-brainer, folks. Hemp is not a drug, period. It can be best described as a superfood, full of omega-3s and 6 and protein and fiber and all 10 essential amino acids. Not to mention the other uses for hemp, such as paper, rope, clothing, building materials, and so much more. Maybe we should be making ropes for the DEA out of hemp. In Crypto Corner news, Bitcoin and other currencies are seeing record highs right now. Bitcoin, as of Monday the 12th, is worth $1,243, more than an ounce of gold for the first time in history. 1 year ago, Bitcoin was worth $420. 3 months ago, Bitcoin was worth $780. Many people were assuming that Bitcoin was going up and up because of the upcoming decision by the Securities and Exchange Commission on whether to approve a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, ETF. That decision came and it was denied. Now, this did have an immediate impact on lowering the price of Bitcoin a bit, but only for a few hours. The price quickly came right back up, and it's been steady ever since. Bloomberg speculates that the surge in price is for an entirely different reason. Quote, the latest surge in Bitcoin's value has been attributed to tighter currency restrictions in countries such as China, India, and Venezuela, as well as speculation about prospects under the Trump administration. Dash has had an even more impressive increase in price. In the last 3 months, the price of Dash has increased from around $9 to around $80, a huge increase. It's been very profitable for me personally. Dash keeps going up and up because it is considered one of the best contenders for replacing Bitcoin as a true, easy-to-use virtual currency. The goal of the Dash team is to make it a virtual currency that even your grandmother can use. Can you even begin trying to explain Bitcoin to your grandmother? That's where Dash is going to shine. In Grow Me Some Meat news, the price of lab-grown meat has dramatically reduced, from around $320,000 for a burger in 2013 to just $11.36 right now. Peter Verstraete, head of Mosa Meat, said, quote, I am confident that when it is offered as an alternative to meat, that increasing numbers of people will find it hard not to buy our product for ethical reasons. Now, I can't disagree with this. I know a lot of people who go out of their way to find food that is more ethical. But most people just aren't going to do that, including me. However, if the choice were this simple, and the price was very competitive, of course, most people would choose a more ethical option. Verstraete is confident that consumers will have no choice but to give in and purchase lab-grown meat eventually. There may be some who will go out of their way to get the real stuff, but that trend will probably only last as long as the prices stay competitive. But if the cost to manufacture test tube meat continues to fall, and there's enough demand, science will eventually edge out factory farms. This brings up another issue, the implication of what would happen to cows and other farmed animals once lab meat is cheaper than the real thing. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. In FDA stands for fucking dumb agency, the FDA has finally approved a several decades old product that can stop 80% of cavities. The product is a simple, paint-on antimicrobial liquid that painlessly stops tooth decay and prevents further cavities. The liquid is called silver diamine fluoride, or SDF. It's been used for decades in Japan, but it's been available in the United States under the brand name Advantage Arrest for just about a year now. The Food and Drug Administration cleared silver diamine fluoride for use as a tooth desensitizer for adults 21 and older. But studies show that it can halt the progression of cavities and prevent them, and so dentists now are increasingly using it off-label for those purposes. What took the FDA so long to figure out what the Japanese have known for decades? In software will eventually replace us all news, software from JP Morgan does in seconds what it used to take lawyers 360,000 hours to do. Program called COIN for Contract Intelligence does the mind-numbing job of interpreting commercial loan agreements that, until the project went online in June, consumed 360,000 hours of lawyers' time annually. The software reviews documents in seconds, and it's less error-prone and never asks for a vacation. Made possible by investments in machine learning and a new private cloud network, COIN is just the start for the biggest U.S. bank. The firm recently set up technology hubs for teams specializing in big data, robotics, and cloud infrastructure to find new sources of revenue while reducing expenses and risks. COIN has helped JP Morgan cut down on loan servicing mistakes, most of which stemmed from human error in interpreting 12,000 new wholesale contracts per year, according to its designers. Another program from JP Morgan called XConnect, which went into use in January, examines emails to help employees find colleagues who have the closest relationship with potential prospects and can arrange introductions. For simpler tasks, the bank has created bots to perform functions like granting access to software systems and responding to IT requests, such as resetting an employee's password. Bots are expected to handle 1.7 million access requests this year, doing the work of 140 people. While growing numbers of people in the industry worry such advancements might someday take their jobs, many Wall Street personnel are more focused on benefits. A survey of more than 3,200 financial professionals by recruiting firm Options Group last year found a majority expect new technology will improve their careers, for example, by improving workplace performance. Chief Information Officer Dana Deasy responded to this saying, anything where you have back-office operations and humans kind of moving information from point A to point B, that's what automation is ripe for. People always talk about this stuff as displacement. I talk about it as freeing people to work on higher value things, which is why it's such a terrific opportunity for the firm. Topics like this and automated staff at fast food restaurants always reminds me of Frederick Bastiat's famous Candlestick Makers Petition, where he satirically wrote an open letter to the French Parliament making the claim that the French government should take protective action against the unfair competition of the sun so that the French lighting industry would have increased profits. Bastiat argued that forcing people to close, quote, all windows, dormers, skylights, inside and outside shutters, curtains, casements, bullseyes, deadlights, and blinds, in short, all openings, holes, chinks, and fissures through which light of the sun is wont to enter houses, will lead to a higher consumption of candles and related products. You definitely want to check out this really short candle maker's petition. It's available for free online, and of course, I have a link for it in the show notes to this episode at thelavaflow.com/57. In Libertarian Party news, as my friend Tom Knapp, host of the Napster podcast, said, things are looking up for the Libertarian Party. According to a report from the Albuquerque Journal, Gary Johnson has, quote, vowed to never again run for the presidency, citing a deep disillusionment with an American political system that rewarded Donald Trump with the keys to the White House despite his dishonesty. This is great news, to be sure, but there's always going to be something for the shiny object caucus of the LP to latch onto. Hell, just in the last couple of days, Mark Cuban, billionaire entrepreneur, recently said, quote, at heart, I'm a libertarian, while saying in the same panel that he believed that citizens should be guaranteed health care. He also apparently made the case that he wants to be convinced to run for president in 2020. Here's to hoping that he stays the hell away from the Libertarian Party, because he's exactly the type of person the shiny object caucus latches onto. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I received an invitation from a former officer of the Libertarian Party of Nevada to like the Facebook page, quote, draft Mark Cuban for president 2020. And this page is not satirical. This should tell you a lot about the Libertarian Party and why I have such a disdain for the National Party. In FBI stands for Fucked Beyond Imagination news, the FBI would apparently rather drop a child pornography site case than give up the exploit and Tor that it used to gather the evidence in the case. The Department of Justice filed a motion in Washington State Federal Court to dismiss its indictment against a child porn site. It wasn't for lack of evidence. It was because the FBI didn't want to disclose details of the hacking tool to the defense as part of the discovery. Evidence in United States v. J. Michaud hinged at least in part on information federal investigators had gathered by exploiting a vulnerability in the Tor anonymity network. Federal prosecutor Annette Hayes wrote in the court filing, quote, because the government remains unwilling to disclose certain discovery related to the FBI's deployment of a network investigative technique, NIT, as part of its investigation into the Playpen child pornography site, the government has no choice but to seek dismissal of the indictment. She also noted that the DOJ's work to resist disclosing this NIT was part of, quote, an effort to balance the many competing interests that are at play when sensitive law enforcement technology becomes the subject of a request for criminal discovery. In other words, the feds are letting an alleged child pornographer go free so that officials can potentially catch other dark web using criminals in the future. What the actual fuck? In Republicans Have Lost Their Damn Minds news, House Republicans have introduced an effort to fix Obamacare that has the official title of the world's greatest healthcare plan of 2017. I shit you not. This particular bill is one of several that Republicans have introduced, including one by Rand Paul that I talked about in episode 29 of The Lava Spurt that you can listen to at thelavaflow.com/TLS029. While Rand's version is not a true liberty bill and does keep some elements of Obamacare, it's much better than the world's greatest healthcare plan of 2017. That's for sure. The best way to fix Obamacare is just to completely remove it, 100%. But that's never going to happen because no one in Washington has any balls. In Beating a Dead Horse news, a dead horse was left on the side of the road for 3 days, thanks to a government regulation. Syed Joffrey's horse died after being taken to the vet to try and save his life. Joffrey left the carcass in a trailer behind the gate of his business until the city could come and pick up the remains, but when he called the city, they said that they would not pick it up if it was in a trailer. They told Joffrey that he would have to put the carcass beside the road. So, doing what was required by Houston city regulations, he laid the horse beside the road and called the city to let them know. The city finally got around to picking up the dead horse 3 days later. Wow. In some news about the show, I have a new incentive that I can start offering to any supporters for the Lava Flow through Patreon or Bitcoin at thelavaflow.com/support. A listener of the show is offering to anybody who donates $200 or more to the Lava Flow a free lifetime subscription to Listen and Think Audio. What is Listen and Think Audio? It's a website that offers access to libertarian audiobooks through Audible. Currently, there are 35 books on the site, with a new book added at least once a month. Once you've donated $200 to this show, your membership begins, and you can choose any or all of the existing 35 books to download for free. That is a ton of material to get started with. Then, each time that a new book is released, like I said, at least once every month, you will receive an email and you can choose to get that new book for free or any other book in the list that you don't already have. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds way too good to be true. And when Listen and Think approached me about this, that was exactly what I thought as well. But I vetted them pretty closely, and I spoke with other groups who used them as an incentive, such as the Libertarian Institute, and it is 100% on the up and up. The current books include a lot of great stuff, like Short Answers to Tough Questions and Healing Our World by Mary Ruwart, Money, Sound and Unsound by Joseph Salerno, Fascism vs. Capitalism by Lou Rockwell, Bit by Bit by Jeffrey Tucker, The CIA, Terrorism and the Cold War by Jacob Hornberger, The War on Drugs is a War on Freedom by Lawrence Vance, Everything Voluntary, From Politics to Parenting by Skylar Collins and Chris Brown, Bitcoin Explained Simply by Mark Jeffrey, and many more books. And there are some awesome books coming up in the next few months as well, including The Art of Peace by Robert Moriarty, Dear Reader, the unauthorized autobiography of Kim Jong-il by Michael Malice, and Government Schools Are Bad for Your Kids by James Ostrowski. You don't want to miss this awesome deal. All you have to do is sign up to be a supporter of this show today and donate at least $200. Now, this doesn't have to be a one-time payment, although I'll take those too, but you can start to support the show at any monetary level. Starting now, when your donations equal $200, then you'll get this incentive. For all of my existing supporters, this goes for you guys as well. Starting now, your donations will count towards this incentive. Once you reach the $200 level, I'll send your contact information to Listen and Think so they can get you signed up. You can check out all of the audiobooks available with Listen and Think Audio by going to thelavaflow.com/listen and think. And to get signed up, go to thelavaflow.com/support right now and begin your support of the show using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin. Either way, once you hit $200, you get automatically added to Listen and Think Audio. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Hey there, Liberty lovers. This is Mark Claire of the Lions of Liberty podcast, where we strive to bring you great conversations about the ideas of liberty 3 days a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Check us out at lionsofliberty.com.
This is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians, which you can find in iTunes, Google Play, or at wearelibertarians.com. We are a podcast that brings you all of the irreverence that modern politics deserves by examining current events from a libertarian perspective. So please, check us out at wearelibertarians.com.
You can buy a handgun, you can buy some fireworks. Sandwich Fair, rest in peace, Daniel Webster. America's Stonehenge, long live the dairy trade, long live the old man. I'm from the granites, really.
New Hampshire, if you don't want to wear a helmet, there's nothing they can do here in New Hampshire.
We were finally able to reveal who the keynote speaker is going to be for PorcFest 2017. It will be none other than the world-class badass himself, John McAfee, 2016 Libertarian Party presidential candidate, cybersecurity expert, and MGT Capital Investments CEO. You do not want to miss your chance to hang out with this really awesome guy. It's going to be one hell of a time at PorcFest this year, so if you've never made it to PorcFest before, Go get your tickets now at PorcFest.com so you don't miss seeing John McAfee. Also, this was a huge couple of weeks for liberty in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. The House passed HB 640, which would decriminalize possession of 1 ounce or less of cannabis for anyone over 21 years of age and makes it a $100 fine. The House has passed this several times, only for it not to pass in the Senate. However, the political climate in New Hampshire is different this year, with a governor who has vowed to sign a decrim bill if it were ever to cross his desk. We'll see what the Senate does, but I will be very surprised if it doesn't pass this time. This is going to be huge for people who are nonviolent offenders. Speaking of cannabis, PTSD and chronic pain were passed by the House to be added to the list of qualifying conditions for medical marijuana. Again, I expect this to pass the Senate and to be signed by the governor. Also, the House passed a bill allowing for some home grow of cannabis for qualified patients. This one may have a tougher time getting through the Senate, but it will probably pass as well. HB 436, which exempts persons using virtual currency, such as Bitcoin or Dash, from registering as money transmitters, passed the House as well. I have no read on whether this will pass in the Senate, but it barely passed in the House by a margin of only 185 to 170, so it's going to be a close one in the Senate too. And according to the 10th Amendment Center, the New Hampshire House passed a bill that will ban the use of stingrays to track the location of phones and sweep up electronic communications without a warrant in most situations. The proposed law would not only protect privacy in New Hampshire, but it would also hinder one aspect of the federal surveillance state. The bill also includes provisions requiring police to limit the collection of data or metadata to the person named in the warrant and to immediately permanently delete any information gathered on anyone not so named. Police would also have to delete any data or metadata relating to the person named in the court order within 30 days if there's no longer a reason to believe the information is evidence of a crime. This bill passed the House by a unanimous voice vote. The federal government encourages and funds stingrays at the state and local level across the U.S., thereby undoubtedly gaining access to a massive data pool on Americans without having to expend the resources to collect the information itself. By placing restrictions on stingray use, state and local governments limit the data available that the feds can access. In a nutshell, without state and local cooperation, the feds have a much more difficult time gathering information. Passage of HB 474 in the Senate would represent a major blow to the surveillance state and a huge, huge win for privacy. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my wife of 11,000 years, Jessica, for her help with this show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/57. I've got 3 new iTunes reviews this week. One super coach had this to say: "Keep the lava flowing." Great perspective on all the relevant issues of today. Roger does a great job breaking down the issues and answering most of the questions I have about any given topic, saving me loads of research time every week that I just don't have. I started donating this month because the value I've received is just too great not to. Looking forward to more from Roger and the Pax Libertas team. Thanks, Coach. I'm so glad that you're finding the show informative. I mean, that's my goal after all, is to educate. And thank you so much for becoming a donor. And another review from across the pond from Skylar Wolf 2017 in the UK says, "Some fantastic information, research, and resources. Roger's superb voice brings strength and determination to his message in this podcast about libertarian philosophy. His explanations and examples are great, and I found myself agreeing with him many times. Not being based in the U.S. made it sometimes hard to follow the basis of an issue, and Roger's speed of delivery meant I needed to rewind occasionally to pick up everything that he was saying, hence why I gave only 4 stars out of 5. Other than that, his segments, content, presentation, and overall production make for a very enjoyable and informative show." Wolf, thank you so much for that great review. I try to pack a lot of information into a short format so that I don't waste your time, and sometimes that means I deliver things a bit fast. But I'll see if I can work on this a bit. And from Senator Meatball, "Great listen. I'm not a libertarian, but this has been an educational podcast to listen to on a regular basis. Keep up the great work." Meatball, thanks for the review. I take it as a challenge now to help you see the benefits and logic of libertarianism. So just keep listening. I also have a new supporter of the week, like I talked about a second ago. BJ, who is also one super coach from the above review, started a $2.50 per episode pledge through Patreon. BJ, thank you so much for your support. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Thanks. And thanks to BJ and all of my other donors, this puts me at an incredible per-episode total of $202, or 80.8% of the way towards my next level, where I will be bringing you a full 30-minute episode of the Lava Flow every single week. And if you want more of the Lava Flow, exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per-episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. And don't forget about the new contest running through the month of March. The prize pack is a Pax Libertas Productions t-shirt from the POP show of your choice, including this show, The NCAP Barbershop, Free Coast Freecast, or even our new show, Resist the Empire. You'll also receive the Lava Flow tote bag and a copy of one of my favorite libertarian books signed by the author. All you have to do to be entered in the contest is fill out a simple short survey with 17 questions. It's going to take you only about 5 minutes of your time, and it's really going to help me out. And if you want to be entered into the contest, just put your email address in the last question. You can fill out the survey and get your chance to win this prize pack by going to thelavaflow.com/survey. Now, you're only going to hear about this contest on the Pax Libertas Productions podcast episodes because I want to restrict it only to people who actually listen to the show. So don't expect reminders on Facebook or other social media for this contest. Go do it now before you forget. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.